I promise you, if you watch this video till the end, your life might completely change. Because today, we are about to hear the story of a boy who lost everything: his parents, his home, his hope, and yet he built himself up from the streets to become a billionaire. Stay till the end, because this story might just awaken something inside you. My name is Ethan Blake, and this is my story. I wasn't born rich. I wasn't even born lucky. When I was 9, my parents died in a car accident. That night, I lost everything: my family, my home, my childhood. The house was taken by debt collectors, and I was left with a small backpack and a broken photograph of my mom. For days, I wandered through the streets of Los Angeles with no place to go. I remember the first night I slept near the train station. The concrete was cold, and the city was silent except for the sound of trains passing by. I was scared, hungry, and angry at life. People walked by me as if I didn't exist. I was invisible. Some nights I cried quietly, hoping my parents could still hear me from wherever they were. But they never came back. And the world didn't stop for me either. I learned that when you're poor, time moves faster for everyone else, but slower for you. Every second feels like a year when your stomach is empty and your heart is heavy. I started collecting empty bottles to sell for a few cents. That money was enough to buy a piece of bread, sometimes a banana. I made friends with other street kids who lived under the bridge near Fifth Avenue. We shared stories, laughed at nothing, and dreamed about a life none of us believed we could ever have. One cold morning, I found a small blanket in a dumpster. It was torn, but it was mine. That night, while covering myself with it, I made a promise. One day, I would never have to search for warmth again. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. I learned how to survive, not because I was strong, because I had no other choice. There were moments I wanted to give up, but something inside me kept whispering, "Ethan, this can't be the end." One afternoon, I walked past a library. It was old, quiet, and smelled like paper and dust. Through the glass window, I saw people reading, writing, and typing on computers. That glowing screen caught my eyes. It felt like magic. I didn't know what it was, but I felt something: curiosity, hope, maybe even purpose. The next day, I gathered enough courage to go inside. I looked lost, dirty, and probably smelled bad, but the librarian, an old lady named Mrs. Carter, didn't chase me away. She smiled and asked, "Do you need help, young man?" I nodded slowly. She guided me to a corner computer and said, "This is free to use." That moment changed my life. I touched the keyboard for the first time. I had no idea what to do, but the light from the monitor felt like a door opening to another world. I typed random words, clicked random buttons, and soon found myself reading about something called coding. I didn't know what it meant, but I spent hours there every day. It became my new addiction, not drugs, not anger, but learning. Every evening, Mrs. Carter would bring me a sandwich. She never asked where I lived or why I looked so tired. She just said, "If you keep learning, Ethan, you'll never truly be poor again." Those words stayed in my mind forever. I began sleeping near the library instead of the train station. It felt safer, warmer, and I could study during the day. I started reading about HTML, JavaScript, Python, words that meant nothing to me at first, but soon became my new language. Whenever I didn't understand something, I'd write it down on a torn notebook I found in the trash. I had no school, no teachers, no parents. But I had the internet, and that was enough. Months passed. I grew stronger, smarter, and hungrier, not for food, but for success. I started helping people fix small computer issues at a local cafe in exchange for meals. It wasn't much, but it gave me confidence. For the first time, people started calling me the computer kid, and that small title felt like a crown. But the world doesn't like to see you rise from the dirt. One night when I returned to my sleeping spot behind the library, everything I owned, my blanket, my notebook, even my old shoes, was gone. Someone had stolen it all. I sat there staring at the empty space, and tears filled my eyes. I felt like the world was trying to break me again. But this time, I didn't cry for long, because deep inside, I heard my mother's voice saying, "Ethan, strength is born when everything else is taken away." That night, I made a new promise. I wasn't going to be a victim anymore. I was going to build something so big that no one could ever take it away from me again. And that promise was the beginning of everything that came next. That night, after losing everything again, I sat under the streetlight outside the library and wrote my name on the ground with a small piece of chalk. "Ethan Blake," I whispered, "the boy who refuses to quit." And from that night, I started again, with nothing but a dream. Mrs. Carter noticed that I stopped coming inside for a few days. When she finally found me sleeping near the dumpster, she handed me a new notebook and said, "I can't give you a home, Ethan, but maybe this can give you one in the future." That notebook became my most valuable treasure. I spent every day inside the library, learning how to code websites, design simple apps, and understand how computers really worked. I had no computer of my own, so I practiced by drawing keyboard layouts and coding lines on paper. Every letter, every symbol, I memorized them like prayers. One afternoon, a man named Mr. Jensen, who owned a small coffee shop nearby, came in asking if someone could fix his broken computer. Mrs. Carter pointed to me. I was nervous, but I said yes. I opened that old laptop, cleaned the dust, and somehow managed to fix a basic issue with the system settings. Mr. Jensen smiled and gave me $20. It was the first money I ever earned in my life. I can't describe how it felt. That piece of paper wasn't just money. It was proof that my knowledge had value. From then on, people started calling me for small computer help. Sometimes it was fixing Wi-Fi, sometimes cleaning devices, sometimes installing software. Every job taught me something new. Every smile from a stranger made me feel human again. But I wanted more. I wanted to build something with my name on it. So I started dreaming bigger. At night, when the library closed, I'd sneak behind the building and write ideas under the moonlight. One of them was called HopeLink, a platform where homeless people could share their stories and get donations or job offers directly. It was crazy. I didn't even have a laptop to build it, but I had the vision. A few months later, Mrs. Carter helped me apply for a used laptop donation program. When they handed me that old, scratched Dell laptop, I cried. It felt like holding a key to the universe. Every day after that, I coded, learned, failed, and started again. I had no mentor, no team, no backup plan, only hunger. And slowly, piece by piece, the idea started to take shape. HopeLink became real. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. People could post stories, and others could read and help. I remember the first time a woman donated $10 to a homeless man named Carlos through the site. Carlos came to me crying and said, "You gave me hope, brother." That was the moment I knew this was my purpose. Soon, local newspapers wrote small articles about the boy who coded his way out of the streets. Donations started coming in. I wasn't rich yet, but I was finally living with meaning. And that felt richer than any money could ever make me. A few months later, a startup investor named Raymond Cole reached out. He said, "Ethan, I've seen your platform. It's raw, but it has a heartbeat.
I want to help you scale it." I couldn't believe it. Me, a boy from the street, was sitting across from a man who believed in my idea. Raymond became my mentor. He taught me business, networking, and how to think like a builder, not just a survivor. With his help, we turned HopeLink into an app, added features, and launched it nationwide. Within a year, we had over 500,000 users and partnerships with shelters across America. My name started appearing in news articles, podcasts, and online interviews. But inside, I was still that boy who once slept on the cold floor of a train station. I never forgot those nights, the hunger, the fear, or Mrs. Carter's kind eyes. One day, I went back to the library, not as a homeless boy, but as a guest speaker. When I stood at the same spot where I once begged to use the computer, I saw kids watching me with the same hope I once had in my eyes. I told them, "Your story isn't over until you decide it is. Don't let the world write your ending." People clapped, and Mrs. Carter cried. That was the moment I realized success isn't about how high you climb. It's about how many people you lift along the way. But life wasn't done testing me yet. Just when everything seemed perfect, a massive cyber attack hit our platform. Hackers stole thousands of user details and donations. In one night, my dream nearly collapsed. The investors panicked, the users lost trust, and the headlines turned from "The Miracle Boy" to "The Fall of HopeLink." I was broken, not because I lost money, but because I felt I had failed the people who believed in me. For a week, I didn't sleep. I walked the same streets I once called home, questioning everything. Was I just lucky? Did I really deserve this life? But one night, I saw a homeless man sleeping under a bridge. He had a torn blanket, the same kind I once had. And suddenly, I remembered the promise I made as a child, that I would never give up, no matter how many times life took everything away. I returned to my office the next morning and called my team. "We're rebuilding HopeLink from scratch," I said. They thought I was crazy, but I meant it. For the next 3 months, we worked day and night. We secured the system, rebuilt the trust, and launched a safer, stronger version, HopeLink 2.0. And this time, it didn't just survive, it soared. Today, HopeLink connects millions of donors with people in need all across the world. We've helped more than 100,000 people find jobs, homes, and second chances. And every time someone gets help, I remember that little boy at the train station. That boy was me. After months of rebuilding HopeLink, the platform was finally stable and stronger than ever. Ethan sat in his office, looking out the large glass windows at the city skyline. He reflected on how far he had come, from sleeping under a bridge to running a platform that connected thousands of people in need with those who could help. He remembered the nights when he had no roof over his head, when hunger gnawed at his stomach and fear consumed his mind. Those nights had taught him resilience, patience, and the value of every small opportunity. Now, Ethan could finally breathe. HopeLink was thriving, with millions of users worldwide. Donors sent funds to those who had lost everything, and countless lives were changing for the better because of his vision. One day, as he walked through the streets he once knew so well, he noticed a group of young kids playing near the train station. Some were homeless, some were just struggling with life. He saw himself in their eyes, the same hopelessness, the same hunger for a better tomorrow. He walked over and knelt beside them, handing each a small notebook and a pen. He said, "Write down your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you that you're nothing. Your story is just beginning." He also remembered Mrs. Carter, the librarian who had given him his first chance with a computer.
He visited her old library, donated computers, and ensured that any child seeking knowledge would have access to tools and guidance. She smiled and said, "I always knew you'd make it." And he smiled back, knowing she had been right. As months turned into years, Ethan expanded HopeLink into new ventures, technology education for the underprivileged, mentorship programs, and community centers in cities across the country. But he never forgot the streets, the cold nights, or the hunger. He built not just wealth, but a legacy of hope and opportunity for those who came after him. One evening, sitting alone in his office, Ethan looked at a photograph of his parents. He whispered, "I did it. I became the man you would have been proud of. I carried your love and lessons, even when I thought I had lost everything." Tears ran down his face, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of triumph, of gratitude, and of peace. Ethan knew life would continue to challenge him, but he also knew that every obstacle was a lesson, every setback an opportunity. He had learned that wealth was not measured by dollars or possessions, but by the impact one could make in the lives of others. He leaned back in his chair, smiled, and said to himself, "I survived the streets. I survived the nights alone. And now I'm here, not just for me, but for everyone who still dreams of a tomorrow better than today." And with that, Ethan Blake's journey from a boy without a home to a man who changed the lives of thousands reached a moment of reflection, triumph, and hope for the future.